Good afternoon, everyone. Ryan, something we have heard repeatedly last night and throughout today is that we actually have a lot of the technologies that we need for decarbonization. And it's more of a question around scaling those, increasing the production of them, increasing adaptation. And I want to start with you and the adoption of them. I want to start with talking with you about sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF. As you all are thinking about SAF at Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines, how are you thinking about how that ties into your sustainability strategy? Where are you on that journey of actually getting that technology and getting it into practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, sustainable aviation fuel is really the lever that we have to pull at any airline for the next 10 to 15 years to decarbonize in a serious way. It's a drop-in fuel that goes into the infrastructure that exists today, operates with our great planes, and is safe and is reliable. The challenge, as you mentioned, is scale. It is a very nascent industry that is a small amount today. Less than 1% of the world's jet fuel is sustainable aviation fuel, but it's multiple times the cost of jet fuel. So we need to see both scale and a reduction in cost to see that happen. And you ask, why is it such a big lever? If you're thinking about how you decarbonize a plane, you know, we had, Ford was up here talking about EVs earlier. EVs are amazing. But if you wanted to throw a battery on a plane and fly from Seattle to JFK, you would be the same weight when you landed. It's very different from a physics standpoint when you're using fuel. You're getting more efficient as you fly. And so until we can, you know, really increase the density, power density of batteries, that solution isn't going to be here for a little while. And as we all know in the climate space, a pound of carbon in the air today is much worse than 10 years from now. So we need solutions today, and that's what we need to scale.
And something you've told me previously is for this solution to be possible, you need a lot of partnerships. So who are those partners for you?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, SAF is tremendously expensive. So we need partners from across the sphere. We have great corporate partners, folks like Microsoft here in Seattle, that help us pay down the cost of what we consider that green premium. That price, they're able to claim Scope 3 credits and see reductions on their books. We're able to claim Scope 1 credits. And so we have partners like Microsoft that not only help us buy SAF, but invest in SAF companies. So out here in Western Washington, we're building a plant, or our partners 12 are building a power-to-liquid plant, and Microsoft's our main partner on that. And if you're interested in learning about that sort of years-long partnership to build the next generation of SAF, we're giving out some books in the Alaska and Hawaiian Lounge. Please stop by and get one. It's a really amazing story about how companies can come together where 1 + 1 = 3, and where we have an opportunity to scale new technology. So corporate partners like that, we have others as well. That's the way we pay down this premium and increase the usage of SAF.
But a lot of the people who are on your planes every day are just everyday travelers. Every single one of us travels. A lot of you may have even traveled to get here. So how are you engaging with those everyday travelers around SAF? How do you educate them? I'm also really curious if there's like a certain type of person who engages more with you around SAF, like a demographic, an age group.
Yeah.
Any trends you see?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. In fact, most of our guests are people just like us that fly for travel, for work, for leisure, and they want to see a decarbonization plan as well. And so last year we started integrating within the booking path at alaskaair.com the ability for you to contribute to SAF. And we're not just asking for you to give us your dollars, although that would be great. We also want to reward you for doing that. So we were the first U.S. airline to link it to loyalty. So if you're interested in becoming an MVP and you're a couple, 1,000 miles short, if you help us buy some SAF, we'll help you get to that loyalty level. And that sort of interest we've seen, really grow. It's not 20% of our market, I wish it was, but of the folks that do buy it, the demographics you talked about are really interesting. They weren't what I expected when I looked at our guests that were buying SAF. More than 70% of the folks that buy SAF on our website don't even, reach the threshold to earn EQMs or elite qualifying miles. So they're doing it without getting that reward. They believe in it. Also, that 70 number is really interesting. Folks over 70 are the ones buying SAF and contributing more to this, which I think is really not something that I would have expected. And so we're seeing guests really across the spectrum, and those are different groups, engage on this. But it came to, I was hearing the conversations earlier, right? How do you make a good business plan instead of just saying, oh, we're doing it for the right reasons, right? We have to find that reward. We have to find that lever saying, join us on this journey. We know it's important to you, but it's not going to stop you from flying. And paying down this premium is really critical. I'm sure, how many of you have bought plane tickets without looking at the price, right? It's a tremendously competitive market. And if we're asking you to pay $5 more, or $6 more, you might choose a competitor. And so we're trying to find a way to balance that need to progress the industry while also paying down the premium and getting people on board.
It's a really interesting statistic to see who's helping you on that journey and who's uptaking it. I want to ask again in a different way about how you incentivize and the structures around this. You guys are expanding into Europe next year. You're going to be going to Rome. How are you thinking about the totally different regulatory market that you're about to be in? In the U.S., it's much more of a carrot approach. We're used to
it was.
Or it's been now it's an approach and not an approach. In Europe, we see much more of like a heavy regulatory environment. There's much more of a stick. So interesting. I see like a little bit of trend here as you're thinking about how you engage with people around it, whether you incentivize them or what that structure looks like. How do you extrapolate that to me as you think about the regulatory space, and how that's going to change as you go abroad?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, on some levels, it makes my job easier because we have to buy SAF when we start flying out of Europe, which is great. But that also means that we have to pass that cost on to a consumer, which is not great. And so you have to balance what the expectation is when you're flying into Europe. Similarly, on the reporting side, I'm sure folks have thought about that are in the corporate sustainability space. Reporting issues in Europe are much tougher, but they also bring clarity to what you're trying to do as a mission as a company. So I also find value in that. And I think what's set there maybe in regulation is de facto here in regulation that's just not on the books, right? You see Fortune 500 companies adhering to European standards because there's clarity of purpose, there's clarity of apples to apples comparison, and we want to be a part of that. So we're thrilled to be flying to Rome next May and 9 new destinations right here out of Seattle to come after that on an international basis, which is thrilling for us here in Seattle.
You've also recently done a climate scenario analysis.
Yep.
And I'm curious, what have you seen, what risks did you find or insights did you see, especially in communities you serve in places like Hawaii, which are particularly climate vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, we're a West Coast airline with hubs here. Our biggest hub is in Seattle, and our second biggest hub now is in Honolulu, thanks to Hawaiian Airlines. And we looked at climate data. We modeled out, emission scenarios for the next 30 years to understand how climate is affecting our business. And make no mistake, climate change is affecting our business today. We are seeing more turbulence. We are seeing hotter runways where we have to lighten loads. These are challenges that will not get better very fast. And so we need to be very aware of where those challenges could peak and also how they're going to affect our guests and the communities that we live and work in. I mean, our folks live in the communities that we fly to all across the country. And these are things that affect them every day. So we take that analysis, we try to plan for the future. Yeah, you can move planes if you see a bad storm coming, but you can't move an airport. And you cancel one flight, how many people are upset and how much does that ruin someone's day? So all of those things we have to take into account when planning for these real changes that are happening.
We talked about SAF, but tell me about some of the other things that you all are doing to make flying more sustainable. Are you changing routes? Are you changing the plane, the experience?
Yeah.
That's what people will be interested in.
Yeah, for sure. SAF is one of the levers of what we call our 5-part path to decarbonization. Number one is just being more efficient with the gallons that we're using. We're working with our pilots, our ground crews, to use as little fuel as we can in our operations, but that's only going to get you so far. The next big lever is new planes. And we're here in Jet City. We have an amazing partnership with Boeing. Every new plane that they're delivering us is 15 to 25% more efficient than the plane that we're retiring or our older set of planes. And so that makes a huge step change. And we're investing in new technologies and new companies like Jet Zero that have, the blended wing concept. And that may be a 50% increase. And so we're looking and we're placing bets where we can into the future when it comes to efficiency. And then, finally, I would say, we're looking at those technologies too, like battery, like hydrogen. We donated a plane to a company called Zero Avia to hopefully use a hydrogen electric powertrain that can fly that plane. And we're hopeful that that will take off in 27 to see how do we advance other types of technology. So we're trying every lever that we can in a very competitive marketplace, but we know we want to fly. We know everyone in this room wants to go to someplace else, to visit family, to do work. And we want to support that journey while also recognizing we have an impact on the Earth and we have to be better about it.
If you haven't already, want to encourage you to check out the Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines lounge that's up here in the front. You can get a copy of this book, Books for Everybody. Also try some of the specialty treats from their planes. Ryan Spies, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks.